What it do, baby boo? Right here, your boy King Reno, back at it again. Actually, this might be the first video that I upload to this channel. But feel free to subscribe if you enjoy the content. Drop a like to this video. We're going to be going over the was it skill capped? Yeah, skill capped. ADC itemization guide for season 11. We've been playing a few hours today. Today's day one of the preseason here in North America, and I figured I'd watch what skill guide or
What's up, everyone? And welcome to the Skill Capped
Skill
ADC
Capped
itemization guide
has
for
to
Season
say.
11. There's a ton of small tweaks to many of the ADC items along with a bunch of new additions. To get you off on the right foot, we will be breaking it all down to make everything less confusing for you guys. Without taking up any more time, let's get right into it.
So before they get right into it, I guess what I want to say is the way the changes that I've noticed, as they said, they did a third removed item, a third reworked item, and a third new items. I feel like a third of the new items are just old items with different names and different names, similar passives, or passives that are combined, or bringing back old and the new items. Some of them are just old items that are a little bit revamped and reworked. That might not show as much in the 80 carry video, but if they do another video with like the tank itemization, you'll see some of the overlap there.
First off, to get you up to speed, there are now two categories of items, one being Mythic and the other Legendary. Mythic items will be the strongest in the game, and the one you will want to rush. You can only purchase one Mythic item. Legendary items will follow and are the items you purchase to round out your core build. We will first take a look at the three main crit Mythic items.
Okay, I should probably bring that back. So, for those that don't know, the Mythic items, you can only purchase one of them per game, and they all have different passives that add on depending on the number of legendary items you have. So it's almost like an even stronger snowball mechanic. So if you get your mythic item early and you're winning lane, that'll allow you to get legendary items faster. That then, I want to say, additively combine to your items, because a lot of them have passives where it's like, if you have this mythic item, you get an additional 5 attack speed or something, or 10 attack speed per legendary items, and those stack on top of one another. So if you're an item up on your enemy laner, or an item and a half, you may be actually doing a lot more damage or hitting a lot harder or faster.
Are the items you purchase to round out your core build. We will first take a look at the three main crit mythic items, and then after that discuss what you would want to build on your non-crit based ADCs. Immortal Shield Bow is the first mythic crit item, which will be a strong defensive option. Its passive provides you with a shield and lifesteal when you drop below 30% HP, so when playing against an assassin comp or heavy dive, Shield Bow can be an option. The more offensive crit mythic is
So the shield bow is effectively like the old Maw of Malmortius, where when like I said, you get below a certain amount of health, you get a shield. But I believe that shield is from all damage, whereas Maw is only from magic damage. And I think Maw shared a passive with Phantom Dancer and Sterax Gauge. So that, I think those items have actually been removed. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they've been removed. So that might be where they decided to transition that passive and then make it primarily for AD carries. I think Sterax is still in the game, and I think you can actually build Sterax on ADs. So you can build like Titanic and Sterax on AD carries again, and they proc on AD carries, which is really, really weird. But Graves might be enjoying that.
Kraken Slayer. It provides you with more AD and crit than Shield Bow, and the passive is like Vayne's Silver Bolts, as it will deal additional true damage every third attack. This will likely be the best option on most ADCs, as the amount of DPS you will be able to output with this true damage proc will heavily outweigh the DPS from Shield Bow and Gale Force, which we will take a look in a moment. Just think about Vayne with Press the Attack, her Silver Bolts, and now Kraken Slayer. She may as well be an assassin, cause that third auto is gonna hit like a truck.
Now, they're not wrong about that. I've played a handful of games on Vayne because, Vayne. And when that third auto goes through. The issue with Vayne and Kraken is you can accidentally offset your Silver Bolt procs and the Kraken procs. If you line them up where your Kraken proc and your Silver Bolt proc and your press the attack proc all are in sync. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and on the third hit, all three of those things proc. Good night. Especially if you get the excuse me. If you get the Blade of the Rune King, 3 hits on Blade of the Rune King, they slow down. So the slow on Blade, the exposure damage from press the attack, the Kraken Slayer, true damage passive plus Vayne Silver Bolts passive. Two items in, you're doing a ton of damage. I think I was like level 8, doing somewhere close to like 360, 400 damage to a Cho'Gath on the enemy team. Same thing with objectives. Vayne was already really, really good at taking objectives. Now she's just going to shred. I would like to see how this works out on Kai'Sa, because I think Kai'Sa has a similar damage profile. So I think that's going to be interesting to see. But Kai'Sa's like the 5-hit proc kind of thing going on. But still, she will just do a ton of damage. On other AD carries, it's good. Not as good as on Vayne, but like I played it on Ashe and I played it on Jinx. Jinx felt pretty good. The sad part, it didn't proc with Jinx's what's the word I'm looking for? Jinx uses the Runon's Hurricane, and we all know that her crits through her AoE rockets actually can crit. Like the rockets themselves, as they fly and separate and stuff, can crit. But the Kraken Slayer passive, but the passive for Kraken Slayer does not apply to the AoE rockets, or the Runan Bolt rockets, which I thought was, it would be really, really strong if it did, but it could also be really, really cool to, have an AoE third hit, do a lot of damage, because that's kind of like in Jinx's kind of a character, once she gets that pop off, it's supposed to just, now she's ramped up, her passive get excited, she just takes off, and she just keeps on going, keeps on going, and keeps on going.
The third and final item for crit-based ADCs is Gale Force. The active provides you with a dash that also deals damage. This damage is increased based on the target's missing health. This item will be best for immobile ADCs, or in games to where you are snowballing early on, since a dash and added burst damage will allow you to be way more aggressive. Now that we've covered your
I haven't used that item, but I think that's actually going to end up being like a bruiser item. I think having the gap closer is going to be far more effective on a champion like Darius or even Camille. Darius needs mobility because he doesn't have it. Camille likes extra mobility. I think, and the passive on it gives more movement speed, I think, per legendary item. So I'm just going to use Darius as my example. Someone like Darius gets that. And then, there are other items that he can always go, but I'm just saying, I don't see the Gale one being used with AD carries as much, unless, I just don't see it being used with AD carries as frequently. I think on champions where they're able to actually, like, gap close where they didn't before, it's going to be very, very useful, and it gives them the additional movement speed, plus when you add other legendary items.
First item purchase, let's talk about your build from then on out. Prior to the changes, your second item on most ADCs would usually be a Zeal item or another BF sword item. These items didn't really get changed too drastically for Season 11, so the only thing that should change is the timing in which you purchase them. For on-hit ADCs like Vayne, Kog'Maw, and Varus, instead of rushing a Blade of the Ruin King like before, picking it up second after you've completed your Mythic item and then getting Ginsu's third is what your build path would look like. For the likes of Jhin, Caitlyn, and Tristana, purchasing Stormrazor second and then Infinity Edge third will be a great option.
I only disagree with that for Jhin. I played against 2 Jhins. One did the Kraken build and was pretty average, but still decently strong. I think Jhin might just be overtuned with the way these items are set up. But the second Jhin, I believe, went one of the lethality items. Dustbladed Dracula. No, not Dustbladed. It might have been the Eclipse one, because I think it might have like auto-queued or something like that. I can't remember. I just remember that they ended up doing a lethality build versus doing a crit build, and they actually just were They were unstoppable in lane because they got a little bit ahead and were able to run that lead, and then they were able to just like take over the game. So I could still be wrong. It might have just been like a bad game where, because they were ahead, it felt super oppressive, but it didn't feel that at any point in time like there was a window for us to get back into the game was the other part of the issue. And that's why I think it was kind of strong. But I think Jin is positioned, or Jin is in a place where he's going to actually be pretty strong.
We think you get the picture. The only thing that really changes here in your build path is the item you rush. Whatever you were building before as your first and second core items, you can just delay those for one slot now due to the new mythic items. Now there is one completely new legendary quick item you could look to pick up in your second or third slot that we need to discuss. Navory Quickblade is that item, and its passive is very similar to what we saw in Spear of Shojin before it got removed. It provides you with AD and crit, along with 30 ability haste, which is the new name for CDR, and a super strong passive. This passive reduces the cooldowns of your non-ultimate abilities by 20% when you crit. This item could turn out to be absolutely nuts on ADCs like Lucian, Vayne, Sivir, and Samira. Lucian is definitely going to be the ADC that benefits most from this item, so look to try it out as your second item on him.
So I think the saving grace of this item is actually the fact that it's not like the old Sterax. So the old Sterax, when you popped your ultimate, now unless I missed something there what he was explaining, yeah, this is just based on your auto attacks. When you popped your ultimate, I think your basic attacks reduced your non-ultimate abilities, something silly, something insane. This, you don't have to pop your ultimate. So on certain champions, this might be like absolutely broken. So Jax, I see it being very, very strong on Jax because if you don't have to use your ultimate, you can just jump in, auto attack, E auto attack. Well, you'd E auto attack, W auto attack, and that'll, well, I guess you would Q. And did I say jump in? That's what I meant by jump in. You'd leap strike, and then you would hit your W or your E, your W, auto reset, auto, and that right there, 20%, 20%. You're looking at your E's probably going to be back off of cooldown in like, I'm trying to think what max rank E is. I think max rank E is like 9 seconds or something. And this is giving you 30 ability haste, which I don't know, probably translates to like 10% CDR or something like that. Plus whatever other CDR items you get. It's gonna be gnarly on someone like Jax, on somebody like Riven. Like, those are the champions that I'm more worried about being able to abuse the Navory Quickblade over someone like Lucian. Or, I mean, Lucian can because he's a caster and he likes to move in between and dash in and dash out and stuff like that. But someone like Jax, someone like Riven, people who are already Renekton, people who are already abusing what's the word I'm looking for? People who are abusing Quickblade or Spear Sojin before might have an item that, you know, just Spear Sojin 2 Electric Boogaloo. Let's go.
New tank busting item you could grab later on is Cyrilda's Grudge. This item gives AD, haste, and armor penetration along with a passive that slows the enemy when you hit them with abilities. The other option will still be Lord Dominik's. It's being changed a little bit as well, as it will now give you crit along with the AD and armor pen. Basically, if you're a crit ADC, then Lord Dominik's will work great for you. And for ADCs like Ezreal or Senna who don't like crit, Cyrilda's Grudge will be the best tank busting option. Now once you get really late into the game around your 4th and 5th slots, everything will be pretty.
Probably because we're so early into the season, the games just aren't going super long, and they're like I said, like if you were joining the stream, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and occasionally on Saturdays, they're just not going long. They're just not going long enough at twitch.tv/call_me_king. They're just not going long enough. I wish they were, but they're not. So, to be able to see what a full build with a armor penetration item looks like, a lot of the games are ending at like Mythic plus 2 items, maybe a 3rd item. Not seeing super long games, not seeing game, and a lot of times when you might be sitting on the gold to get that, but then you will win that Baron fight, you'll win that Dragon fight, and you'll just close out the game.
Similar as before based on the situation, but there are a few new changes we should talk about. If you need healing reduction, there are now 2 options for ADCs. You still have Mortal Reminder, which gives you the AD and Grievous Wounds, but it will now also give attack speed, crit, and move speed, making it a great offensive purchase. The new and more defensive Grievous Wound item option is Chempunk Chainsword. Another new, or perhaps you could say old, late game defensive item we need to take a look at is Sterax. Yes, Sterax is now viable again on ADCs. The shield will be weaker for ranged champions, but it will still be a great late game option to provide yourself with survivability if the enemy team has a lot of burst champions. Titanic Hydra will also be a late game
So, as I was joking earlier, but now he's kind of discussing it now. It seems that they tweaked and modified a lot of the numbers so that these items aren't as busted and aren't as strong on ranged champions, which makes me just kind of go, then why not just make it let ranged champions have their own items that do similar things or tweak it in a way that would benefit a ranged champion. Like, I don't like having these items that are like clearly better for melee champions, because then when you run like Aurelia in the bot lane and you have a Vayne and an Aurelia, well, I shouldn't use Vayne as an example, but if you have an AD carry and a high mobility bruiser, Aurelia, Riven, Yasuo, those types, and they're both on like 3 items and they're identical, then just because the range champion is ranged, they're at a disadvantage. I guess technically the range champion should be probably building their own items, but then why give the option and the ability for them to do so if you're going to hamper them anyway?
defensive option now for ADCs, as the bonus on hit and splash damage now works for ranged champs, albeit with lesser of an effect that you get on melee champs. This also means Tiamat will work for ADCs as well, so potentially we could see some wacky Tiamat rush strategy on certain ADCs. Overall, if the enemy team is really tanky, you can build one of the Last Whisper items.
Quick shout out to Quinn before the rework, when you could just actually fly around and play as Valor. That was my favorite, running around as Valor, and like you would basically build a melee build. You build Titanic, because then on Quinn you could so Valor would transform into a bird, and when you dash to them, you actually like stayed on their character. So you'd like that. So you'd like auto dash, auto Tiamat, auto, and you could 100 to 0 somebody in the blink of an eye with Quinn. It was so sick.
If you need healing reduction, Mortal Reminder or Chempunk are there for you. If you want more survivability, there are now many different options, ranging from Death's Dance to Guardian Angel, Scimitar, Sterax, and Titanic Hydra. And if offense is the only thing you know, building another BF or Zeal item is an option as well. So now that we've discussed the only thing you know...
So he's saying Death's Dance, GA, Mercurial Scimitar, Sterax, Titanic, Zeal, and BF. So these are your tank survivabilities. These are your I'm actually behind and losing, and I need to figure out a way to get back into the game. A lot of people don't understand or know that about League of Legends, but we talk about that a little bit on the channel here. But yeah, looking at these, you definitely this will mitigate, this will revive, this will allow you to cleanse abilities. This gives you a shield, and then this just gives you overall tank stats.
Building another BF or Zeal item is an option as well. So now that we've discussed crit-based ADCs, what about outliers like Ezreal or Senna who don't want crit in their builds? For Ezreal, building either Trinity Force or Divine Sunderer will be his go-to mythic items. Both items provide you with Sheen's Spellblade passive. Trinity Force will likely be the most optimal option in most scenarios, but against very tanky compositions, the percent HP damage that Divine Sunderer provides will make it a viable purchase. Something worth noting here when talking about Ezreal and Senna is that Tear is now a starting item. It costs 400 gold, so you can get your Manamune stacking as soon as you start the game. But the downside to this is that the rate in which you can stack Tear will be a lot slower now, and the bonus mana you can stack will be lower as well, going from 750 down to 450. This means the amount of extra AD you get from Manamune will be lower for Season 11. Because Iceborne Gauntlet is also being removed, Ezreal won't be getting as much value out of the mana to AD conversion from Manamune. On top of this, Manamune will no longer get the 15% mana refund on ability use, so you'll be running out of mana quicker. Overall, the efficiency of Manamune is being decreased for Season 11. We probably won't see it being abused as much on a variety of ADCs, and even Ezreal may struggle due to its changes.
I just got done playing an Ezreal game, and that was one of the things. So I played a game with Lucian where I started off tier, and it felt really, really bad, and then the game got blown open and we ended up losing pretty horribly. But I just got done playing a game on Ezreal where I didn't start tier. I did it kind of like the old way, where you build your, you start off building the components around the tier, and then you build the tier, so then you can at least have damage and have some survival, like tradability when it comes to fights and whatnot. And uh, the mana, what is the mana Mira? Mana Mune, the one before you becomes Mira Mana, gets a Mana Mune, feels pretty bad. It just does. It doesn't feel necessarily strong or doesn't have any oomph. And then when it does transform, you do feel the kick, but it's like you said, it's nowhere near as strong as it was last season because you don't get as much AD from the mana because the mana is only at 450. And then the other part is it takes so much longer to increase it because you are increasing your mana, I think, by 3 up to 450 with I want to say it's like an 8 second cooldown, internal cooldown in between. So it takes like super long. It's one of those things where if you know you're gonna go tier, you probably should get it as your first item. It can work if the game goes long enough. Like I think each game that I had a tier that transformed was between 20-25 minutes. So, well, it was like 23-25 minutes. So, like, once you hit 25 minutes, your tier should be changing over. Whether you first item it or whether you buy it later on, like, as a completed Mirror Mana. I think the problem is if game times speed up and games are ending earlier, you're going to find yourself in a jam. At the end of the day, it's not gonna be pretty.
To finish off your build on Ezreal, the standard Death's Dance will work great as his third item. For your final items, if you need healing reduction, then the new item Chempunk's Chainsword, which we touched on earlier, will work great for him. If you don't need healing reduction and want more survivability, then either Sterax, Guardian Angel, or Scimitar are good options. And if you want more damage, then a Blade of the Ruined King 4th or 5th can work as well. As for Senna's mythic item options, there's either Duskblade or the new lethality item Eclipse. We should add that Miss Fortune and Jin may also find themselves really liking this item, as they've had success with lethality builds in the past. Eclipse gives AD, lethality, and Omnivamp along with a nice passive that synergizes really well with Senna's kit. How this passive works is that if you hit a champion with 2 separate attacks or abilities within 1.5 seconds, you deal additional % HP damage, get a shield, as well as movement speed to kite around.
Alright, like I said, I think I might have mentioned it earlier, the Jin did the lethality thing. I don't know if I mentioned that I played an Eclipse Senna thing. The only problem with playing the Eclipse Senna was that the only issue with playing the Eclipse Senna was that it does better against higher HP targets. So that's kind of weird. But all in all, it wasn't terrible. Alright, brother. Thanks for coming and dropping by the stream. Feel free to swing on by. Get some rest and I'll see you on the flip side. But yeah, I think the Eclipse is probably up there for at least range champions up there for the better lethality item. And again, there's still that split where it's worse on range champions than it is on. But it is what it is. You can't have everything. Because then certain range champions would actually be broken. Like Vayne would probably just crush this game. Samira. Terrible.
With Senna being able to auto and then Q very quickly, she will benefit greatly from this passive. From here on out, the build will be very similar to what you did in Season 10. Pick up your Manamune second and then Yomu's and Rapid Fire Cannon to round things out. Alright, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Use everything we talked about in this video to give yourself the edge for the start of preseason. Be sure to experiment by yourself and try different stuff out to see what you enjoy or find the strongest. If you're someone who's been theory crafting and have come up with new OP builds, then
so they're winding down. Effectively, what I took away from this is, I mean, they did a really good job of explaining some of the itemization. I think they were using a lot of PBE stuff, so it wasn't necessarily. I mean, they could have gone a little further in depth. I mean, I've probably played a total of 10 games, maybe not even. I feel probably between 8 and 10, and in those 8 to 10 games, what I'm taking away is what it feels like to play with the items versus how to play against those items, and then seeing where the different styles or types of AD carries come into play. There might be a window where oddball, I don't like oddball AD carries. Not your like your melee bruiser, not like your Yasuo Rose, but like Graves. Corki, Kindred, may find a home in lanes, mid lane, bot lane, top lane, because these item changes disproportionately like break them, like make them stronger than everybody, than certain laners. Like I could see Graves being a very strong top laner. I know there's a Korean, no, I think it's EU. It's an EU West mid laner that only plays Graves, and with the changes to some of these lethality items, like those are all beneficial to its build and things like that. So I think it's still really, really early in the season. Not saying that, it needed to be figured out and cracked on the first day. Personally, day one, I feel it's a bit underwhelming. The items. I remember when they were doing when they did the marksman rework, the assassin rework, the support rework. When they did all of those things, like those were broken. Like when they came out of those scenarios, those were broken. Those were absolutely broken. They had no business making those items or changing the champions the way they did, because they broke most of them. This preseason 11, nothing is crazy broken. Everything just feels like laterally shifted. But hey, it's day one. Somebody might figure out an interaction with a champion passive and an ability plus a certain item. And the next thing you know, that once you figure it out for one champion, then you see it tangentially like works on another champion. And the next thing you know, like 3 champions are actually god tier and actually broken in the game. So, I think all in all, day one wasn't bad. Season 11 preseason is going to be long. It's going to be a long preseason. But, should be okay. With that being said, feel free to drop down into the comment section. Let me know how you're thinking or what you're thinking or feeling about this current season. I guess if I did a question of the day, it'd be how did you end season 10 and what are your goals for season 11? And if there's anything you wanted to chime in on about preseason 11 when it comes to itemization or champion passives or things that I may be missing when it comes to both of them coming together. In the meantime, between time, it's been your boy King Reno out here doing what I gotta do. Be good to one another if you can. Help. Today is actually Veterans Day, so please, if you can, go to your local veteran association. See if you can help. Whatever they need a bartender, they need music, maybe even cleaning or something. Help out where you can. Help to those that gave to us, as well as your local food shelters or can drives, anything that you can help to give the people who are just in a less fortunate position, as well as stop by your local SPCA, because our animal buddies always need help too. Like the SPCA loves it. I don't know. I guess I should find out more since COVID and everything. But I know the SPCA loves when people are able to help walk pets and walk the dogs and things of that nature, and play with the cats and stuff. It helps their workers. It helps the animals be de-stressed and stuff like that. And those animals are just looking for a home, looking for love too. Like I said, in the meantime, between time, it's been your boy King. Thanks again for kicking it with your boy. Or kicking it with King. I guess I should say that because that should be like thanks for kicking it with King. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.